and welcome to the studio of North Andover Community Access Media, North Andover's public access station. We're here inside the North Andover High School at 430 Osgood Street. I'm Gayle Heney, former two-term poet laureate of North Andover, and also the producer and host of the television series Right Now, and co-producer and host of the mini-series Opportunity for Poetry. We're here as part of the Trails and Sails program, which is the premier event of the Essex National Heritage Commission. This particular program celebrates poetry and its rich history in the county. This history includes, of course, the famous Robert Frost, who was a local celebrity even in his time here, and the first published American poet, Anne Bradstreet. But today, we have a vibrant and growing poetry community, and I'm very pleased to bring you some of the best voices of contemporary poetry from the Essex County. I'd like to begin with our first poet, who is Ken Delano. Ken Delano normally, almost always, performs as part of the team with his wife Nadine. They're known as Kennedine. Today, however, Nadine is teaching ballet. She's not with Ken, so rather than Kennedine, today we have Ken Nodine. Please welcome Ken Delano.
Thank you. Since Nadine's not here, I decided to do a single poem. And it's a poem I wrote, some 35 years ago. And it's my first love poem to Nadine. So this is to Nadine. I will sit in your classroom and study with you for one more lifetime. In your presence, chaos is organized, neatly printed out, instructing me again to improvise. Though nothing can ever fail to serve me. Notes, signs, successes, mistakes, lovers, mistaken lovers, a roulette wheel, a coin, landing on edge and rolling everywhere. We are together because you took the chance that I would arrive again and again, every incalculable now and then. You know that fate is always lucky. And I reflect my perfected flaws because you shatter my mirrors and scatter their pieces like dismembered starfish in an ocean of selflessness. And on the beach at low tide, I primp the odds, knowing you will just mess them up again. Thank you. Thank you. Our next poet is Jim Knowles. Jim is an engineer, poet, artist, member of Gray Court Poets and the Robert Frost Foundation. His work has appeared in a variety of small journals. He won first place in the 2009 Poetry Superhighway Contest and second in the 2010 Inkwell Poetry Competition. He has 4 slim volumes at www.blurb.com. They are Taki, Nighthawks, Gray Beret, and Peculiar Pair of Dice. And now, Jim Knowles.
A little poetry noir piece. Get this on the right way. Ashes of the night. In my office, the windows turned from obsidian to dark ruby, warning of a new day. Down the street, a yellow wedge of light fell from a door. A mouth opened to the night, and alone in a foyer, an old woman in persimmon cloak suddenly seemed to be free from this world. I whipped the Bushnells from my blazer and took a shufti. A slow cigarette burned where she lay, spirit smoke rising, stuck to the upper lip, burning callously, dropping ash between her collar and neck. This I saw across the square. I walked down the street, stepped in, stooped sadly. I felt compelled by some higher force to apply a respectful caress along the edge of a finely figured jaw, a surrogate for someone's goodbye. Then called it in, camped out on the wet granite steps, gave witness. Yes, officer, the skin was cold. That happens among the living too, don't it? There was only light fog for breakfast. Wish there were more I could do, but isn't that every day? Could I talk to the grandnephew? Why not? If there's a chance some airsat's quote might animate that amiable rag doll, paint him with the face of tomorrow. You know, I may start making a fool of myself, but there isn't enough clay to finish off the face. Aren't we all ashes of the night, dragged out of bed, fired up in the stage lights? Behold, here I stand, hard-fired and brittle, in this burning land, solving riddles, just a little scale model of myself, sifting the ashes. All right. So our next poet is Pilar Quintana. Pilar is a poet, artist, musician, and actor. She's a member of the Gray Court Poets, the Arts Institute group of the Merrimack Valley, and the band Pride of Wolves. Her poems have appeared in Methuen Life, Athens, Georgia's Word of Mouth, and the GCP anthology, Songs from the Castle's Remains. Pilar Quintana.
I'm going to read a poem that I don't normally read. I wanted to read something different, and it's kind of oldish, so I apologize if I'm a little rusty with it. It's called, Is Here Where We Come to Rest Then? Is here where we come to rest then? This briny alcove at the corner of the sea where the waves lap against the rocks and the water is warm with sun and seaweed, and the seaweed curls thick and tendinous, torn from the bottom of the ocean floor, from another land. Is here where we come to rest then? This rocky shore where mounds of seaweed form a surreal blanket of moist down and Coke cans, and seagulls lie serenely atop the sirens' discarded robes. Here where no man comes, they eye you with disinterest, or saunter past you on the water's edge, unused to human interference. Only when the children come running from afar are they bothered to fly up. An old woman and two toddlers approach me on my rock, and like a seabird I rise and leave it to them, and walk farther down the beach. The sand sparkles as if it were encrusted with tiny jewels, tiny stars, a universe newly born out of the dark, dank foliage of the ocean depths. It smells of sex and afterbirth and distant lands, but mostly it smells of life. The wind carries it as far as it can, but it is never far enough. It dissipates in human air until you happen upon it, at the edge of the universe, this place where the sea washes up its tired weeds and seabirds nest undisturbed, and wind and waves laugh in a dance they have followed since the beginning. Is here where we come to rest. Thank you. Our next poet is Kim Adamai. Kim began writing in high school, stopped for many years, and began again 10 years ago while caring for her mom. Her inspirations are all around. Kim Adamai.
Thank you so much, Gayle. I have two short poems. I hope that's okay to read both. The first one, and let me just say I'm with the Write group that is Gayle's writing group, and I'm very grateful to be part of it. The first poem is called An Evening on Norfolk Street, and I walk this street every Wednesday when I go into Cambridge to take classes. Evening on Norfolk Street. Just outside Central Square, the one-way street shows its true self this summer evening. Forget the notorious, we're two brothers, far from home, tragically lost their way, wreaking havoc, creating destruction, sadness. What I see are little houses with big porches, built in 1840, flower boxes gushing color. Tight's tropical convenience, offering Latin American, West Indian delicacies, avocados, plantains, and the latest gossip. Fourth floor walk-ups, showing promise to new shiny faces, excited to study in the big city, and tired grad students too cool for gratitude. Lifelong residents making their way slowly, carefully along brick sidewalks needing repair. There are always those hopeful for my dollar, waiting, rarely asking for the help. A gentle breeze freshens the hot night air, releasing honeysuckle, softening the pickets of an old fence hidden in the white hydrangeas. All who notice pause to breathe deeply, drinking the fragrance of romance, possibilities, certainties, that right now life is so, so good. The second poem, I don't know if I can show this, but it was a friend gave me a picture of a sunset and asked me to write a poem. So I'm just going to hold this up so you can see it, and I named it Painting in Light. Impressed with an impressionistic sky, a million colored dots take us beyond. Point of reference to Seurat. Was this a Sunday afternoon's dazzling conclusion? This was no paint-by-numbers exercise. This was a proclamation of glory, heavenly grandeur. Earthly horizontal line holds us steady as we lose ourselves in perfection. Thank you. So our next poet is Barbara Perlman, and she is a former trustee of the Nevins Memorial Library, which is a private library serving the needs of the citizens of Methuen, Massachusetts, since the 1880s. She has been a resident of that city for over 45 years. Barbara is a member of the Write Group, founded by Gayle Heney, the Gray Court Poets, and the Salem, New Hampshire Writers Group. Articles and stories written by Barbara have appeared in the Writer's Block, Bon Secours magazine, and the library's trustee journal. Her current project is entitled Journaling Through Central Asia, a chronicle of her adventures in Russia and Uzbekistan. Barbara.
Thank you, Kim. The Language of Food. I wrote this poem in response to religious services held in support of people concerned about violence between police and people of color. Communication is so critical in changing an us and other mentality that can foster conflict. In this poem, I envisioned a next step to the services which had been providing such comfort. The language of food. Different religious communities plow a field in March. Seeds planted in April, nurtured during spring, fertilize, water, weed. Crops grow all summer. Some indigenous to New England, others new. Sweat, back-breaking hours in heat. Time crawls. Friendships form among those who farm. Crops watched over, plots tended for those absent. Harvest time arrives. Fruits and vegetables gathered in a church basement. Some distributed among shareholders, others prepared for the feast to come. Children, strangers in spring, acquaintances now, talk freely about games and returning to school. Anxiety about new beginnings, a common theme. Knowledge about schools, teachers, learning calms the younger ones as they listen carefully, wide-eyed. Foods both familiar and strange appear. Adults speaking in different languages, carefully introducing dishes prepared from the bounty. Textures, tastes, aromas fill the room. The buffet table groans with plenty. Plates filled, carried to tables where new friends talk. Language like music, a path to understanding. Adults exchange recipes. Children laugh, tasting the unfamiliar. Many conversations reveal different ways to prepare old staples. Potluck suppers are planned for the new community's future collaborations. Food, the universal language. This summer has been a glorious one, as many of you, I'm sure, have partaken of the bounty of good weather we've had. And this poem, called Summer Smorgasbord, extols the virtues of a much-needed respite from the busyness of life. This is a review of a picture-perfect celebration of a glorious time. Summer Smorgasbord. Spring-fed lake, white clouds scud across cerulean skies. Sunlight winks on water. Geese and ducks skim the surface. Children splash. Aromas and music fill the air. Boys of summer, uniforms new and crisp. Marionette strings facilitate the ballet. 6 to 4 to 3, Tinker to Evers to Chance. Cool clouds, swift breeze. What could be better? Music wafts through the summer night, a concert 50 years in the making. The wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald commemorates again lives lost. Quebecois, Irish, jazz, blues blend in the wind. Crisp summer vegetables fresh from the farm up the road, corn as sweet as can be, picnics shared by friends. Waves of the sea adding a staccato beat, mesmerizing those on Marginal Way. Beachgoers enjoying sand, sea, and sun. Algonquin Playhouse provides evening entertainment, followed by a night walk on the beach, an embarrassment of riches. Our next poet is C.J. Morse. Morse is a young poet hailing from the alabaster roads of Andover. He teaches spoken word for the Bread Loaf program at Phillips Academy. He's competed in Louder Than a Bomb and performs wherever he can. CJ?
A couple pieces I'm going to read. This first one was written after a long day at school, and someone had said something to me, and I just kind of went off of the idea. So it's called Adolescent Dreams. Ascend the steps to eternity as we drift into the cool breeze of the night. The dark caresses the souls of the adolescents, just to simply allow them solace, but solitude brings nightmares. Solitude brings pain. Adolescence wrought from the loving coals of childhood. We just want to grow up. But you look at it straight. Black boy might not live to see 25. White boy seems to be set for life. So how do we differentiate when we wish to view each other as equals? And society already values the light-skinned brothers and sisters. How are we supposed to claim that we feign ignorance when we already know the comfort the dark may bring, or the emptiness that it gives? Fall away, slide deep into the abyss of power-tripping and ego void, where no man can escape its fangs. Consumed by the pains and guilt of our actions, could a man catch a break? So we hit shuffle on our iPods as we drift lower, Kanye screaming, no one man should have all that power. And he might be right, for we believe in the idealism of consumerism, belief in higher powers and darker nuances, commit our felonies and truancies. We are the adolescents of the nation, shaped by the cold, dead hands of a society designed to make minorities fail. Molded and fired by the coals of education and television, pop culture is our professor. We no longer have an attention span to even understand. For everybody nowadays seems to have ADHD. And our teachers can't understand the demand of our minds, brimming with potential but wasted on youthful aspiration, aspiring to be nothing more than a kid today. Let somebody else figure out tomorrow, when my generation is more scared of the future than the last. For we don't even think we're ready for this big old world. We'll just trip off the power left in our hands. We'll sink into our despair and take yet another pill. For we've been vetted by all these medications and frustrations. We can barely get through a day without the drugs in their system, killing off the personalities of the youth and making us complacent adults. We are the adolescents who are scorned and frowned upon, for we're simply going insane. We're dying because we're hopped up on meds. They keep pumping drugs into us until we die. Our dreams are simply lost in translation of teenager to adult. With our hashtags and emoji, our expressions and abbreviations, our mannerisms of the dark void that we call our minds, we are the adolescents. We are the dreams of our parents, scorned and frowned upon because we're broken, we're lost, Thank you. And so this second piece is untitled. It is easy when the sun is shining to look over the painful truths resting before you. Things you remember in high definition turned out to be blurry renditions of the same events. So when the sun sets, and I find myself sitting alone in the dark, I can see those same moments crystal clear, when I was so easy. Easy to be, easy to please, easy to find, easy to replace, as in placed outside and left to stare in the windows. These are my ghosts. This is my retribution. But people will say, oh, my boy, just get over it. 'Twas a thing of the past. As if memories won't haunt me, as if it was easy to forget. So easy. Let me rest in pieces while I hum, thinking of cocoa butter kisses and coffee cups, knowing that I miss it more than anything else. Let me get my fix. So into my caffeinated coma I will rest. Dreamless sleep, yes, I find myself conversating with her, staring at the starry sky and trying to remember why I gave up. Staring at the star-filled moonlight, accentuating the eyes that got lost looking into hers. And my mind clears up faster than I would have wanted. So easy. And I stare at the screen, tapping out my mind as I scream in electrical pulses, knowing the futility of these actions, knowing these moments where it just feels easier to be lost. Easier to run, easier to die under the sun, easy to lay within its embrace, smiling as I forget that this ever happens. That I believed in her promises, or I believed in my own stupidity. Only a fool would think himself wise. So foolish I shall remain, stuck pining over a false love or is it pining over the moments that felt real, where this smile was genuine, this work wasn't so conflicted, and saying I love didn't make me question myself. Like, brother man, you know this will kill you, that you'll be on your knees for months, but still you'll ingest this poison. Infected with this feeling the vibe harder than ever, so when I stare into the eyes of the sky and watch the moon rise, my mind ragged from screaming out voice, maybe one of these days I'll finally be able to stop, put down the pen, lay off the mic and the spotlight, and stay upon the cold grave of a stage where no one needs to know my name, only that this was where I chose to remain. Thank you. And so to introduce our next poet, we bring you Chris Warner. Chris is a graduate of the Harvard University School of Education. She's an emerging poet and the author of a micro chapbook, Strokes, Mostly in Silence. Her poem, Engulfed, was nominated for a Prize. She co-led the creative writing program for inmates at MCI Concord for 2 years until its cancellation in September of 2015 by the DOC. Chris hosts a monthly drop-in workshop, Writer's Writing, and she also teaches mindfulness, yoga, meditation, and core strength in West Boxford. Please welcome Chris Warner.
Thank you, and thanks to Gayle and Tiffany and Ron and the Essex National Heritage Foundation. It's so wonderful. It's wonderful to have poetry in the community, and I'm honored to be here. This is Labor Day. I'm sitting here writing elegies instead of a shower, instead of dishes and laundry, instead of quiet contemplation of workers and all those concerns. I forgot to pay the insurance. The bill is still out on the kitchen counter. I forgot to buy stamps and matches. I forgot to send regrets, to beg forgiveness again. I did buy fall flowers, 12 plastic containers sit off to one side of the driveway. I can see them from here, drying out, already wilted, a litter of white, scarlet, gold. I can't bear to go out there. Can't imagine any kind of sunny arrangement and all the digging and feeding. I've been wasting the morning with Google Maps, tracing the jags of a coastline across the computer screen with my finger and up and down the cold and unreal blue of it. Hidden harbors, unseen families or lovers, vacations, villages. I don't know where you are, the name of your town, or if your house is one of those summer homes with a name like Tidal Nest or Our Time Out or Not Leaving with a K, or something even more clever or poignant. I wonder if those dogs are there with you, if they're whining and crying. I know what hunger means, and all about the importance of timing and opportunity and location. I see everything that waits, and I know what I should be doing, but another hour's already passed. This room is heating up again, and still it's not getting done. Thank you. Our next poet is Dr. Joseph Khalil. Dr. Khalil is a retired dentist who spends most of his time writing poetry, among his other hobbies in photography and music. Now, putting together all the manuscripts of his work accumulated over many years, he hopes to soon publish his first book of poetry. He's a member of the Gray Court Poets and is published in Methuen Life, Chicken Soup for the Dental Soul, and various other newsletters and journals. Let's give it up for Dr. Khalil.
Thank you. What else can a doctor talk about except health? Usually a poem is read and you're asked to interpret. I'm going to reverse this a little bit and tell you what my poem is about. As many as 1 million Americans live with Parkinson's disease, which is more than the combined number of people diagnosed with multiple sclerosis or muscular dystrophy or Lou Gehrig's disease. My poem has to do with the lament, a patient's lament with this condition. It's called The Demon Within. Where did he come from, that beast that haunts me each day? He roams around my body, inviting me to play. I tried to quickly move my hand, but something held me back, like a limiting elastic band that my strength could not attack. Fingers across the keyboard, no longer smooth or fast. Could that ever be restored, or is this concert the last? The sound of music ceased. One finger continued to play at rest upon my knee. It slowly tapped away. It would be wonderful to read that newspaper as I planned, if only I can be freed of that tremor in my hand. So I walk a little slower now with a little dancer's shuffle. Yes, faster do I vow till it makes my feathers ruffle. I speak, the voice is weak. In my thoughts there is delay. Even at my very peak they ask, what did you say? We know not his name, this demon that roams my soul, nor from where he came or actions he can control. He devours my strength and confuses my mind. He goes to great length, destroying answers that I find. There is rigidity in my facial expression. I just take everything in stride, struggling to change with great discretion, but I have nowhere to hide. Thank you. Along the same line, patients with this disorder do suffer from a lack of being heard because of their loss of their voice box and their voice control. And a program was developed called LSVT Loud from Lee Silverman Voice Therapy some years ago, but very few people know about it. So I will continue with this lament as I tell you about what it is to have not a very good sounding voice when you have Parkinson's disease. The games were exciting. We cheered every goal. Did this yelling and screaming finally take its toll? I'd love to sing and recall my days in the choir when our voices echoed through the church spire. The choral group concerts with full orchestration were the highlights of my music and its culmination. In the classroom, students understood each word. It was apparent the message was clearly heard. Leadership was a successful part of my career. In every dissertation, they listened and did hear. Then the dreaded question, "What did you say?" began to haunt me more frequently each day. "Speak up, I can't hear you," was a common request, in spite of my efforts to do my very best. Now, I practice my loud voice each day, so people will stop asking, "What did you say?" Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Tim Kremen, who's a good friend and is a member of the Gray Court Poets also, and several of his poems are included in their anthology, Songs from the Castles Remain. Tim's poetry has also appeared in Albatross, Forge, Poetry Pacific, Westview, and other publications. Tim lives in Andover with his wife, 3 children, 1 grandchild, and 1 mother-in-law. Lucky Tim.
I've been spending a lot of time up in trees lately, and this poem is a result of that activity. This poem was published in the September Methuen Life magazine. A creature of the air. The leaf was sure of being light enough to fly, if only it weren't tied to the tree. And so a struggle ensued, lasting all summer. The slender stem could not break free. Finally, the tree let go. The leaf was indeed a creature of the air for a few gusting, tumbling, sailing seconds before the ground reclaimed what's hers. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce our next poet. Stephen Sohigian is a lifelong Andover resident. He graduated from Fitchburg State University with a Master of Arts in English. He has volunteered for over 25 years with youth in the community. His poems have appeared in Methuen Life and in the anthology Songs from the Castle's Remains. Stephen Sohigian.
My first poem is Out of the Blue Sonnet. My inner voice compels in verse to write sonnet. Perchance blotches of thought, ink-stained I can't explain. I cast 3 lines, hoping not to derail thought's train. a quatrain quartered on page, and now I can't quit. Nose twitching, ears are itching, it's bewitching. I still thirst for last quatrain, where rhymes dispersed. 2 lines done, halfway through, polished and unrehearsed. Frantic fingers counting 6 feet in whirlwind fling. Almost like puzzle, Tercet's pieces start to fit. Butterflies, inspiration elude cobwebs in brain. Sonnet full of steam speeds to where tunnel is lit. Twisting words until verse finally begins to sing. Hopefully the tempo has not gone best to worst. This sonnet's as racking as Christmas lights to string. My next poem, and I'll put this guy up here, and you'll get the gist of it when I do that. Monkey shines and piggy dines. We think of monkeys in treetops so high, and pigs wallowing in the mud and sty. As the monkeys reach for the distant star, the oinking pigs think that the trough's too far. Each dream of being in snout and nose pose, wishing paw and hoof clasped as new moon rose. Oh, what a tale of 2 tails so in love, curly below, long one in tree above. And gooey wet mud pies and wedded bliss, bananas linger in tender sweet kiss, as if a monkey flies and pig grows wings. Their tails interlocked as the green vine swings, porcine in beauty with a cloven hoof. Love beats in moon dust that stands so aloof. What swine be thee that apes such a passion? A trick of fate does bore love in fashion. Dreams of oinking monklets dance in their heads as they try sleeping in 2 different beds. Imagine pig keys eating from low troughs, a long-tailed oinkies swinging, strange knockoffs. These furry swines grunting ooh-ooh oink, now as they pig out in unpeeling chow. How could one monkey around in love chased, where treetops and sty troughs are thusly placed? Our next reader is Jeff Roberts, a writer and artist from North Andover. Jeff's first book of poetry is called Chatter in the Canopy and is available from Etsy and Amazon. His poem Beach Glass was nominated for a Pushcart Prize in Poetry in 2010.
Cloud. Draped in cirrus slip, she stares, and primps in mirrored vanity. Ankles crossed below her chair, allowing thighs to part. I see an empty hammock clinging sheer, each end anchored to a knee. Her silk coaxes from me this tear and greens my crude form's jealousy. Arms rise as wisps in quiet air, flesh gossamers in the fading sun. Dabs of fragrance kiss each ear. Deft hands wrap hair into a bun. The movement wakes a breeze with care. She storms without a sound. Her edges fade, then disappear. Her feet refuse the ground. Thank you. Next up is the unique and inspiring Doris Brown.
I like, with God, everything, our life is a lifetime journey, and that's the title of my first poem. Sometimes we feel that we mess up and we're done, but we're never done with God. So you seem so far away, at other times so near. The longer I stay away, the harder it is to find you here. I find myself wondering why I stay away so long, but in my humanity, I didn't like to be told that I was wrong. But now I feel repentant, and I feel I want to give you what you deserve, my whole life and attention, to listen and to serve. It isn't much, but you remind me. With you, it has much possibility. So God, here I am, once again, looking to you for my next step. I have disappointed you, but it isn't over yet. My second poem is very similar in nature. God has a plan for each one of our lives, and if we're patient and we stick with God, God can reveal that to us, and that's what this poem's about. When a flower is grown, you don't see the weeds pulled out. What you see is a gorgeous plant inside and out. All the care that has been taken, watering, weeding, fertilizing, and such. A lot of work at hand. We never dreamed so much. Well, when we come to God, He has a master plan, but in the process, He has to lend and extend His hand. There will be pain and trials. They help us to learn and grow. And sometimes they are repeated because we can be stubborn, don't you know? There are maybe times of doubt, and we will have to stick it out. For if we are not too far-sighted to see the progress at hand, but if we are patient, as hard as it may be, as we reflect, we will say, I can see the change God has made in me.
That concludes our Trails and Sails program for 2015. I'd very much like to thank all the poets today who shared their thoughts, their words, their inspiration with us. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. In addition, a special thanks to North Andover Community Access and Media. Special thanks to Tiffany Began Stearns. Also to our camera person, Ron Zeheb, to Brian Frazier, the executive director here at North Andover CAM. And I would encourage each and every one of you to seek out other poetry events that might be in your communities. A good place to start would be your local libraries. Thank you very much to the North Andover CAM for letting us come and share who we are through the magic of poetry. Thank you, and have a great day.